Good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers.
We begin in both Washington and the Middle East as the White House walks back key parts of President Trump's proposal to take over the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, also under fire, the Trump administration's plans to cut federal aid and the federal workforce. And now we're seeing protests. That's what's on your screen right now. To President Trump's policies growing louder all over the country, from California to Texas to Kentucky and Ohio.
The law is the law, and President Trump needs to obey all parts of that law. And Elon Musk, he may get to be a dictator at Tesla, and he is trying to play dictator here in our nation's capital, but he does not get to ignore the law, and we need to shut down the Musk operation.
Elon Musk's team has been working to shrink the federal workforce, offering widespread buyouts, with the National Security Agency the latest to join the list overnight. According to the Office of Personnel Management, more than 40,000 federal workers have taken the offer, with today being the deadline to accept. But Department of Education officials have warned staff the deals could be rescinded. For more on all these major headlines from Washington to the Middle East, we've got team coverage. We have NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, and we have NBC News correspondent Yasmin Vasugian. She's in Tel Aviv for us. Good morning to both of you. Yamiche, I'll start with you. So there's been a lot of back and forth this week when it comes to DOGE. That's the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Musk, about its mission, its level of access to government systems. Now, the Trump administration has now agreed to some guardrails on this, on Elon Musk's power. What can you tell us, and what's the White House saying about it ultimately?
That's right. Well, there has been a lot of criticism of DOGE and their access to things like the Treasury system. But yesterday, the White House press secretary said that that access is read only. She was also asked about conflicts of interest that might come up because of Elon Musk. And she said that he would recuse himself and essentially step away if there were any conflicts of interest. The other thing that's interesting here is that since Elon Musk has become so close to President Trump, there's been a lot of talk of whether or not he's sort of co-president and whether or not he has more say in things and is having too much influence. But President Trump has said he is not co-president and that he is doing whatever the president is reporting and telling him to do. So it's a very interesting thing that the president is really saying, look, I'm checking Elon Musk and he is only having the authority that I'm giving him.
Yamiche, also the White House trying to walk back the president's just stunning proposal for the U.S. to take control of Gaza. This follows backlash from lawmakers, also leaders all around the world. The plan also rejected by the Palestinian Authority president, who's been a longtime opponent of Hamas. Tell us more. What's the administration saying about this right now?
Well, it's really interesting because White House press secretary Karoline Leavitt, she was sort of walking this back and sounding different, though, than President Trump, who is really doubling down on this and saying that the U.S. is going to have and wants to have control over the Gaza Strip. But let's first play some sound of the White House press secretary yesterday when she was asked about putting boots on the ground, U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza. Take a listen.
It's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
Now, President Trump had insinuated that boots on the ground might be a possibility during that press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. But he is walking back that part, but not the part about the U.S. wanting to take over the Gaza Strip. Just in the last few minutes, he posted online, I'm going to read part of it to you. He said the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, like Chuck Schumer, would have been already resettled in a far safer and more beautiful communities with new and modern homes in the region. He went on to say no soldiers by the U.S. would be needed. Stability for the region would reign. So even though he's saying that the U.S. wouldn't be involved in any sort of fighting or conflict on the ground, he is still saying that the U.S. would essentially be taking over authority of the Gaza Strip. And he's been saying he wants to build things that sound to some critics like a resort. Of course, there's a lot of backlash to this, and a lot of people saying that this is simply not something that the United States can actually do, including, of course, leaders in the region.
Yes, and let's bring you in here and talk about some of those leaders. So we saw Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appear to back Trump's plan when he was right there with him after their meeting this week.
Yeah.
How has this chapter played out in Israel, and has it called into question the Prime Minister's hold on power generally?
The conversation has actually really shifted away from Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu's hold on power. I think since the beginning, since October 7th, and even before that time, the Prime Minister was extremely unpopular, especially in a liberal bastion like Tel Aviv. Since October 7th, especially, his unpopularity has, in fact, grown. There was this thought and this idea, as we had kind of been covering this war for the last year and a half, that once this war ended, that Netanyahu would also lose his position of power. And it was possibly one of the reasons why he was prolonging this war, to prolong his power. Even amongst the family forum here, the families of the hostages that were being held in Gaza, they felt as if Netanyahu was making decisions that were putting the lives of their family members who were being held hostage by Hamas in peril. And now, though, the conversation has shifted away from the release of the hostages and the ceasefire negotiations and more towards corralling behind, really, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, since, of course, the declaration of President Trump making and saying, essentially, that Gazans should leave Gaza. And that is because one of the reasons why Netanyahu was beginning to lose power, and it seemed as if it was more up for grabs, is he was losing the really right wing of his cabinet, right, which he needed to remain in power. And now it seems that right wing is coming back around him because they were against the ceasefire negotiations in the first place and striking that ceasefire deal. But now that they see that there's a possibility that Palestinians could leave Gaza, Netanyahu, it seems, has resecured for this moment, guys, his power.
Yamiche Alcindor, Yasmin Vasugian, thank you both very much for your reporting.
Let's get more analysis on the situation in the Middle East with Hala Rarit. Hala served 18 years as a career diplomat before resigning from the State Department in April last year over the Biden administration's policy on Israel and Gaza. We're glad to have you with us this morning. So the Israeli government seemed to express some interest in Mr. Trump's proposal for Gaza. Beyond that, though, our allies in Europe, Asia, the Middle East have rejected it. What was your reaction to those initial comments by the president? I mean, has anything like this ever been floated before?
Well, I can tell you as a veteran diplomat, it was shocking, but I did serve under President Trump, so nothing really shocks me that comes out of his administration, I have to admit. But it's illegal. And what your audiences have to understand is that it's tantamount to a declaration of war, because the Palestinians will not leave. This has been the point of this decades and decades long conflict in the region, that the Palestinians claim their land. They refuse to leave. They survived a year and a half almost of bombardment, of starvation, and they don't want to leave their homeland. His claim of forcible removal is tantamount as well to ethnic cleansing, to land theft, and it's obviously a violation of international law. And I can tell you, I'm still here in the region, in the Middle East, and it is absolutely rejected by every single country in the Middle East. So it's also not a realistic accomplishment whatsoever. But what it has done is caused intense instability, because everyone is in shock, everyone is fearful of what will happen next, and that is not a pathway to peace whatsoever. It's quite the contrary.
We've seen over the past 24 hours, as we were just discussing before we started talking, the White House attempting to walk back the president's Gaza proposal in certain terms, regardless of whether or not this plan ever goes ahead. What kind of consequences do you think just the comments themselves could have on both Gaza and the broader Middle East?
Well, let me tell you, as someone that specialized in the Middle East on behalf of the U.S. State Department, the countries in this region are extremely volatile. A lot of protests have erupted over the last year and a half against these leaders that have been seen as not doing enough to help Palestinian civilians. Now, the fact that they're going to be implicated potentially in the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, it is destabilizing to their leadership as well. And I think if anyone is whispering in the president's ear that knows anything about the Middle East whatsoever, what he is potentially going to do is unleash revolutions across the Arab world that will really, really threaten the legitimacy of leaders in countries like Jordan and Egypt And even in countries like Morocco, where there have been continuous protests against the monarchy for keeping normalized ties with Israel. So instead of promoting normalization, instead of promoting peace, it's doing the exact opposite. And it is also a threat to U.S. national security, because now we are seen as taking over the war, taking over the genocide as it's seen across the Arab world. And quite frankly, Trump is seen as Netanyahu's lapdog, which has destroyed American credibility, whatever was left of it.
Hala, we're tight on time here, but real quick, what would you like to see the U.S. do right now in this moment?
Honestly, as an American diplomat, it's very simple. Follow U.S. law and follow international law. Follow laws like Leahy vetting, Arms Export Control Act, limit arms to Israel based on that, and follow international law, which states that Palestinians have a right to self-determination, again, based on international law. That is the only solution to peace. As long as there continues to be an illegal occupation, there's going to be a vicious cycle of violence. The only pathway is diplomacy and is administering international law. That's it. It's not that difficult, but it requires negotiation, and it requires policies that are not imperialistic, but rather value human dignity.
All right. Hala Rarit, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, President Trump's attempt to quickly shake up the federal government has resulted in employees of one key agency being placed on leave and CIA employees now being offered that buyout. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake has more.
President Trump's latest move in his campaign pledge to slash the size of the federal government. All employees at the U.S. Agency for International Development, which distributes foreign aid, receiving this email saying most staff will be placed on administrative leave at noon Friday.
Hey, ho, ho, Elon Musk has got to go!
Democrats protesting the cuts quarterbacked by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency.
We don't pledge allegiance to Elon Musk.
We are here to fight back. No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
While Republicans defending Musk.
USAID has got to actually serve the interests of American foreign policy. It ought to be to promote the interests and well-being of the American people, not some left-wing woke agenda.
Musk posting Democrats' quote hysterical reactions are how you know that DOGE is doing work that really matters. This is the one shot the American people have to defeat bureaucracy. In another cost-cutting move, the Trump administration now offering buyouts to most employees at the CIA and other intel agencies. More than 40,000 federal employees so far have already accepted an earlier buyout offer, according to a source familiar.
From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
And this afternoon, the president signing a new executive order banning transgender women from competing in women's sports and withholding funding from schools that don't comply.
We will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls.
The Human Rights Campaign responding, quote, this order could expose young people to harassment and discrimination.
Our thanks to Garrett Haake for that report. Well, that order banning trans women from women's sports is the fourth order directly targeting transgender people the president has signed since he took office on January 20th.
Now to what some lawmakers are calling a disastrous national security development. Members of the U.S. intelligence community are raising concerns after the CIA sent an unclassified email with a list of recently hired employees to the White House.
The CIA says it was just complying, with President Trump's executive order, which asked for the list as part of information gathering in their mission to shrink the federal workforce. But the move has alarmed former intelligence officials and lawmakers who worry that America's adversaries could try to exploit it.
These are people who in many instances will have spent, years in training and arguably years in getting security clearances. So just an absolute unnecessary counterintelligence risk was assumed today.
A CIA spokesperson tells NBC News the CIA became the first major national security agency to offer buyouts to its entire workforce on Tuesday.
NBC News national security reporter Dan DeLuce has been covering this story, joins us now. So, Dan, what more do we know about this list the CIA shared with the White House, and why was it sent in an unclassified email?
Joe, it's just extraordinary. The explanation they're giving is that they had this deadline to meet, like all federal agencies, to provide a list of all the recently hired employees from about the last 2 years. and they didn't have they say there was not a classified way to send it to the Office of Personnel Management, which had a lot of lawmakers scratching their heads, asking how is it possible that there isn't a way to, securely provide that information. So instead, they chose to send it this list with first names and the initials of people's last names. That was their way of trying to protect people's identities. But of course, you have all this criticism now saying any foreign intelligence service really worth its weight is going to be able to figure out using public data and other records who these people might be, and even their addresses, using credit card records and so on. So it's really a tremendous security breach here, and it could affect people's careers and even their safety.
Dan, this kind of information is typically kept classified, right, for a reason. So what are the potential consequences of a list like this being out there unredacted? How serious is it for the individuals, for the employees listed?
It will depend on the employee, of course. Some of these people are not necessarily going to be going abroad and, conducting covert operations or being case officers. They might be at a desk as some kind of analyst. However, even then, they might have very sensitive contacts in their movements and in their travels. Ultimately, it puts people's lives in danger. That's what former intelligence officers say. And, you have to go back to the 1970s when lists of CIA employees were put out there by opponents of the CIA, and there was tremendous risk there, and actually people lost their lives. So it's no joke. It's very serious. The question is, who did this? And the speculation is, was it possibly someone in the Trump transition team who doesn't have kind of as much experience with handling, sensitive or classified information? It seems possible, but unlikely that a CIA staff employee would have done something like this, because it would sort of go against their training.
Dan, on top of all this, we know on Tuesday the CIA offered employees 8 months of pay in exchange for quitting their jobs. We know the Trump administration is trying to take these steps to reduce the workforce across all 18 intelligence agencies. These are obviously important jobs. They're not easily replaced. I mean, how could this kind of paring down just impact national security broadly?
This is unprecedented, really, Joe. We've never seen a situation where an administration just writes a letter to everyone in the CIA or other intelligence agencies and says, you can leave and get 8 months' pay, take it or leave it, without really looking carefully at who does what. Right now, they're going to limit some of this. Some people are not eligible if they have very, very sensitive jobs, but it does run the risk that you lose talent and skill. And people in that agency, they go through years of training. These are not necessarily people that can be easily replaced. So it raises a lot of questions about what the impact will be.
Dan DeLuce, Dan, appreciate your reporting on this. Thank you so much.
Well, a federal judge in Maryland issued a nationwide hold on the president's attempt to block birthright citizenship in the U.S. by executive order. This happened yesterday, blocking it indefinitely as the case makes its way through the courts. In total, 22 states, as well as some organizations, have now sued to stop Trump's move.
This is the second judge to block Mr. Trump's order to restrict birthright citizenship. 2 weeks ago, a federal judge in Seattle issued a temporary restraining order for 14 days. Now, that same judge is set to hear arguments in favor of blocking the order later today.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos joins us now with more on this. Danny, good morning. So let's start there in Seattle. So this particular thing that's happening there, because there's a lot of moving parts in other courts, but a judge could issue a preliminary injunction that would indefinitely block this order, but it also gives the Trump administration the opportunity to appeal. No matter what happens, do you see something like this headed to the Supreme Court?
Of course. This is a classic case of every single one of these decisions being essentially an exhibition game. It doesn't count towards the record, because when you have pure legal issues, and here you have purely constitutional issues, each court, each appellate court is going to look at it what we call de novo, with fresh eyes. They're not really going to give that much deference to the lower court. So once we get up to the Supreme Court, it's a whole new ball game, and really none of the decisions, even the district court judge who called it blatantly unconstitutional, that judge may be right, But the Supreme Court is not bound by that on these purely constitutional issues of law. So while all of these decisions leading up to the Supreme Court are certainly interesting, the real game, the Super Bowl of birthright citizenship, is not this Sunday. It's at the Supreme Court when this case arrives there, and it almost certainly will arrive there.
There's a lot for people to keep track of with all these different cases going on. What should people focus on right now? And I mean, I guess I'm not a lawyer. I look at it and go, the Constitution's pretty clear on this. You have to amend the Constitution if you want to make this change. Is there a different argument?
So I'll put on my against birthright citizenship hat here, because you're right. For hundreds of years, we've assumed that there was a thing called birthright citizenship. And it wasn't until the 90s that the Republican Party started putting in their platform that they wanted an amendment to the Constitution to end birthright citizenship. Now, that's a different issue. The Constitution can be amended, and you could get rid of birthright citizenship that way. The question is, can Congress do it? And really more specifically, can the president do it by executive order? And the argument essentially goes back to the idea that the 14th Amendment, which gave birthright citizenship, contains the language, anyone born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So what do those words mean? Opponents of birthright citizenship argue that, hey, we exclude the children of ambassadors. We exclude the children of invading armies. We haven't had an invading army here for a long time. But if the British were to return with their muskets and have children here, the soldiers, we would say, well, those are probably not citizens. It's hard for us to imagine because we've been so safe for hundreds of years. But that is among several of the arguments. But if you were a betting person, and I know you're not, Joe, but if you were, I would bet on birthright citizenship surviving, for no other reason than we've had it for hundreds of years, and there's a very clear interpretation of the Constitution that could lead to that conclusion.
Also, Danny, separately, I want to ask you something that Garrett Hake was just reporting on a little bit ago for us. So this is this executive order to ban transgender women and girls from competing in female sports. Specifically, though, also bans trans women from competing in the 2028 Summer Olympics that will be happening there in Los Angeles. Walk us through legal challenges that could face and the implications here.
The executive order cites Title IX, which bans discrimination in educational arenas. It's a parallel of Title VII, which bans discrimination in employment. And the Supreme Court held in 2020, in a case called Bostock, that discrimination extends to things like gender identity. Now, that's the employment context. We're talking about the education context, but courts do interpret those rulings similarly. So it's ironic that the executive order says this is based on Title IX, and yet it may be Title IX itself that renders this executive order unlawful.
And for those who don't know, Neil Gorsuch, a very conservative justice, is the one who wrote the opinion that said you can't discriminate based on this.
Wow, are you sure you're not a lawyer, Joe?
It's an interesting fact. It surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, very good.
Danny Savellas, thank you very much.
All right, President Trump's nominee for Attorney General Pam Bondi was sworn in as the nation's top law enforcement officer yesterday after a Senate vote that was mostly along party lines. Bondi is the former Florida Attorney General and represented President Trump during his first impeachment trial. She spoke after being sworn in the Oval Office.
I will restore integrity to the Justice Department, and I will fight violent crime throughout this country and throughout this world and make America safe again.
Within hours of taking her oath, Bondi ordered a review of the federal investigations that were conducted against President Trump. She also called for the creation of what she calls a weaponization working group to look into the work of former special counsel Jack Smith.
After an intense 12-hour manhunt, police in Ohio say they've made an arrest in connection with a deadly workplace shooting at a warehouse near Columbus. One person was killed, 5 others injured in the shooting at a cosmetics company Tuesday night. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has more.
A 12-hour manhunt for Bruce Reginald Foster III, the employee who authorities say unleashed a deadly targeted attack inside this Ohio cosmetics plant, ending with a dramatic arrest near Ohio State's campus.
I'm shot in the arm, 825 Snowstone Road. I'm going to bleed out, please.
Newly released 911 calls appearing to be from victims, detailing the horror.
I've been shot on my neck, and my one body is on the floor, but I took the gun away from the guy. My body is just shot on the floor. He's down on the floor.
Okay, is he breathing?
I don't know. I've been shot. I'm putting pressure on my neck. I can't breathe. Come on, do it fast.
5 people were hurt, 1 killed. Authorities not releasing names and confirming they recovered a handgun at the scene. They say Foster had been on shift for hours before opening fire. His motive still unclear.
Do you think he targeted those 6 people, or do you think they were just around when he started shooting?
I think we're beginning to get a picture of that. We need to go through and find out, like, where's his workstation compared to the other people's.
Investigators say Foster fled using a rideshare service. The manhunt lasting through the morning. U.S. Marshals and other agencies tracking him down more than 20 miles away at this apartment complex near Ohio State University's campus. Court documents show Foster was arrested on 1 count of aggravated murder, with authorities recommending a $20 million bond.
Maggie Vespa, thank you so much. This morning, officials across the country are warning Americans to be careful on the roads. A fast-moving winter storm expected to dump snow, sleet, and freezing rain on at least 17 states. The storm is causing school closures across the Northeast. Overnight, Pennsylvania banned commercial vehicles from several of its major interstates as part of the state braces for an ice storm. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa is in White Plains, New York, where public schools been delayed by 2 hours from opening because of the dangerous driving conditions. Emily, good morning. Tell us, what's it like there now? Just how bad is it expected to get?
Hey there, Joe. Well, this is the wintry mix that officials are concerned could turn roadways into ice rinks right around rush hour time. You might be able to hear it and then see it against the contrast of my gloves, those little pieces of ice coming down and icing over roadways and sidewalks. Up to a ½ an inch could accumulate in pockets of the Northeast, according to forecasters, including in central Pennsylvania, where they are under a rare ice warning. That's where, as you mentioned, officials have banned commercial vehicle transit on several major interstates. We're also seeing the impacts to travel even at this early hour. The misery map showing pockets of red, especially in the Northeast. More than 500 flight delays so far this morning, more than 500 flight cancellations as well, as we see this fast-moving storm move through. And while it is fast-moving, people should be bracing for a 1-2 punch. More severe weather will be moving in, winter weather over the weekend. Tens of thousands of people, especially in Ohio and West Virginia, waking up without power because you think about it, the weight of the ice on tree limbs and power lines knocking that down. So a lot of power companies at the ready to respond to that. Officials warning people as they head out the door to be careful on those roads, guys.
Yeah, and that video reminding us those overpasses are especially dangerous right now. Emily, thank you so much. Stay safe. Let's stick with weather. Check in with meteorologist Denise Isaac. She's tracking what's ahead for this winter storm in her Morning News Now forecast. Denise, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yes, we do have at least 103 million people affected by this system. Altoona, Pennsylvania is under that ice storm warning. Cumberland, Maryland as well, while places from Detroit all the way into Maine are under at least some sort of winter weather alert or advisory. We do have snow falling right now in New York that will transition over to ice in just a matter of minutes. Philadelphia, Williamsport, York, Pennsylvania tracking some of that freezing rain and sleet as well. While Richmond, it's downpours. Charleston, West Virginia, heavy rain as well, where earlier today they're under a flash flood emergency because areas of I-64 were completely underwater. And here's a cold front moving through Kentucky that's spawning some tornadoes along this line, along with a lot of lightning. And there's a tornado watch in place until 10 a.m. Central Time. So this area of low pressure will continue to push towards the Northeast today, bringing the possibility for snow, ice, all the way into places like Boston, and then a few strong storms possible in the Tennessee River Valley later on this afternoon and evening. As far as ice accumulation, it will continue to impact the morning drive, so please be careful out there as freezing rain and sleet will continue to make these dangerous conditions on the roads. Snowfall amounts anywhere between 2 to 3 inches in Boston, a little bit more towards the higher terrain. Now we switch to the west. We travel around 3,000 miles, where in California, a new system is impacting the area, central California, mostly with heavy rain and snow. This storm system will move inland tomorrow, bringing snow across the northern Rockies from Montana to Nevada, while California gets a break. As far as temperatures, still bitterly cold in the north, while it's warm down south. Austin today, 82 degrees, 77 in New Orleans, where they're getting ready for the Super Bowl. Tomorrow, New Orleans, close to 80 degrees, Del Rio, 88. But this warmth won't last long because by next week, we're tracking temperatures in the 40s. So Memphis, Saturday, Sunday, 70s. But by Monday, Joe, only highs in the upper 40s.
All right.
Back
Thank
to
you so much, Denise. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.